Welcome back. In this lecture, let's discuss the demerits of chemistry, the disadvantages of chemistry. Now, chemistry despite the numerous advantages of chemistry, there are yet a couple of disadvantages to applications of chemistry. Now, some of these disadvantages or demerits will be discussed in this lecture, and you'll see how the study of chemistry has brought a disadvantage to us. Now, disadvantages, by the way, are products or negative experiences derived from the application of chemistry. And what are examples of these negative experiences? We would start with pollution as the demerit of chemistry, and then we'll discuss drug abuse, drug misuse and abuse, and we'll discuss accidents, that's chemical accidents. All right, so now let's discuss this. Pollution. Pollution is the release of harmful substances into the environment to the detriment of plants and animals. So when harmful substances are released into the environment, which serves costly to plants and animals in that environment, then what has happened is that environment has been polluted. Now, how has chemistry led to pollution in our environment? Number one, we have air pollution, which is caused by the application of chemistry. Now, exhaust from your cars, from your car engine, combustion engines, exhaust from your generators, exhaust from any combustion engine, all right, serves as a pollutant to the environment. And that is caused by an application of chemistry because petroleum is a chemical compound which was burned, which is a chemical process in the engine of these machines. And then one of the products released into the environment, or one of the products of that combustion, is carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide upon oxidation. Be it carbon monoxide or carbon dioxide are pollutants and can lead to global warming, greenhouse effects, right? It could lead to greenhouse effect, it could lead to global warming, and also mix with water to cause acid rain. All these are pollutants, and they were caused from the application of chemistry, from the production of petroleum and the combustion of petroleum. Another way chemistry serves as pollution is oil spillage. Now, when you have industrial areas situated around water bodies, some of the exhausts, some of the wasteful chemicals produced from the activities of these industries can wash on the ground into the water bodies. Now, let's make it practical. Imagine you have a generator house, right? Most of you have generator houses. Now, if you have a generator house that has been there functioning for about 2 years, 3 years, and when you go to the generator house after 3 years, you would see black oils, on the ground, spilled everywhere on the ground. And even the walls will be filled with black deposits of carbon, right? That is pollution. Now, imagine you have rain falling on that ground and washing those chemicals into water bodies. What happens? Those harmful chemicals will wash into water bodies, and then they will cause a serious problem to aquatic lives, to fishes and all other aquatic species found in water, which could lead to their death. And now, even if it doesn't lead to their death, it can lead to poisoning of their systems. And then fishermen go there, they get the fish and sell it to local markets where consumers go there to buy and eat. And then what happens? Those chemicals that have poisoned those fishes would enter into the bodies and cause diseases, to the consumers. A very good example of a chemical done this way is mercury spillage. Mercury is liquid at room temperature, so it means it can easily wash into water bodies and go into the system of aquatic species, and then upon consumption of those species, you have mercury poisoning. Another one is lead. But lead is mostly poisoned through car exhausts because your cars and other spark engines have you usually add anti-knocking agents to those engines, And those anti-locking agents are rich in lead. They are tetraethyl lead compounds. And lead could be blown into the atmosphere via the exhaust. And then you can breathe in lead, or it could fall on your roadside foods. You go there to buy the foods and consume them. And if lead gets into the system, it can bind with hemoglobin, all right, coagulating red blood cells together and causing problems for our health. So the application of chemistry can lead to pollution and lead to problems to us. Now, you can also have land pollution. For example, disposal of plastics, of nylon, and glasses, and other non-biodegradable materials. Now, these non-biodegradable materials cannot decompose. So it means if you have your environment littered around with these materials, they remain there year in, year out, right? And then they are harbor germs, they harbor microorganisms, which could lead to pollution and disease to organisms in that environment. So that is one way chemistry serves as a disadvantage to us. Another way chemistry serves as a disadvantage to us is drug misuse and drug abuse. And before we talk about the disadvantage chemistry poses to us in drug misuse and drug abuse, let us define what drug misuse is and what drug abuse is. Drug misuse is the self-prescription, all right? The self-prescription of physiological drugs, all right, in unregulated amounts, all right, by patients or even individuals who have no prior illness. For example, you have slight headache, for example, and then you are told to use paracetamol. That is drug misuse, because if you were not told to use paracetamol by a physician, by a doctor, you were told maybe by your instinct or by your parents, you misused paracetamol in that case. Now, that is not to say even if you go to the hospital, you won't be asked to use paracetamol, but it is to say that you were not paracetamol was not prescribed by a licensed physician. So what has happened is you've misused that drug in that context. Some people have a slight headache, and then the doctor tells them to use paracetamol it's just an example. Tells them to use paracetamol, maybe 2 tablets. And because the headache is intense, they use 4 tablets. That is drug misuse, because you do not go by the prescription you have. But drug abuse, on the other hand, is a consumption of hard drugs. Drugs like opioids, like caffeines, like cocaines, like codeines and the likes. Drugs that are either stimulants or depressants that can affect your nervous system. They are hard drugs. And these drugs can cause serious problems to your health. Hard drugs can never be prescribed to you by a physician. If at all, you would use hard drugs, because hard drugs are also advantageous. So they'll be mixed for you into normal drugs by the pharmacists. So it won't be left to you as a patient to consume hard drugs directly. So hard drugs can never be prescribed to you, in short. Now, you consuming hard drugs, probably as cigarettes, by smoking them, or by sniffing them, or by cooking them, or by any other means, is drug abuse. So one difference between drug misuse and drug abuse is drug misuse does not really feature hard drugs, while drug abuse features hard drugs. And now, these drugs are chemicals, right? And then the consumption of these chemicals could cause serious problems to your health. These chemicals were produced by the knowledge of chemistry. So the consumption of hard drugs, or the non-prescribable consumption or non-prescribed consumption of non-hard drugs, all right, by patients, is a disadvantage of chemistry to us. Another disadvantage of chemistry is in accidents. You could be working in your laboratory, your chemistry laboratory, for example, and then you have acid spillage, or you have chemical spillage, and it spills on your skin. It burns your skin, or it burns your cloth, or it does something, it gives you a product that is not desired. That also is a disadvantage of chemistry. Now, we've had cases where you want to attack somebody, and then the person attacks another person with concentrated acid or concentrated bases, right? Now, the production of acids, right, is an application of chemistry, because acids are chemicals. Now, the wrongful application of that acid, right, in the laboratory or as a means of attack is a disadvantage of chemistry, because now the product of chemistry has been used to cause harm or damage towards a second person, right, which is a disadvantage. As a matter of fact, whenever the applications of chemistry are used or are put in the non-desired way, what you would have is a disadvantage. So whenever you apply chemistry in the wrong way, then it leads to the demerits of chemistry. On the screen here we listed 3. I'm sure you can list more demerits of chemistry. Now, so that brings us to the end of this course, chemistry. I hope it made sense and I hope you enjoyed it. In the next lecture, we shall discuss the scientific method. The scientific method features how discoveries are made in the field of science, how questions are answered, all right, in the field of science. It's a very important method, and I would like you to join us as we discuss the scientific method. Thank you for staying with us. See you in our next lecture.